I've always made the comment that once a miller, always a miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favour, drop me off in Rotherham.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotherham United podcast. We have a South Yorkshire derby to talk about, and as I said in the instant reaction yesterday, the least derby I can ever remember. A terrible game of football. One team was slightly less worse than the other, and Barnsley deserved their victory, which we'll talk about in the next hour. Plenty of penalty decisions or non-decisions to talk about, which pleased Steve Evans, gives him something to talk about in the post-match. We'll talk about it. The banner that was there at the weekend there as well, which wasn't picked up by many, it seemed. We'll go through it all. We'll go through it all next. Well, we'll go through what we can in the next hour or so. I don't promise any positivity. I don't promise this will make you feel better, but we will talk about Rotherham United, and that's what it is. Mick, first of all, welcome. I want you to tell you. Many people have spoken to you this weekend about the podcast. What is they haven't talked about Rotherham United, have they?
No, not once. Not once. The only conversations I've had with anybody this weekend about the podcast, and there's been quite a few, have all been about Terry's chocolate orange eggs. and everybody's saying the same thing. They are what I said in the first place, a game changer, mate.
Okay, fair enough.
Let's talk about that for an hour. Come on.
We could change it to the New York Talk, the chocolate podcast.
Why not?
What could possibly go wrong? Danny's back. Danny, have you tried a Terry's chocolate orange egg yet?
I have.
Have you? Are you a fan?
I have. I am. They're very, very nice. Very, very nice. It's funny enough, my mum bought some from the shop and went, "Oh, it's reminded me about what Mick said on the podcast. You need to tell him about it." It'd be a bit. I don't know, but no, they are really very nice. Highly recommend it.
Excellent. So, if nothing else this season, we may end up in League Two at the end of the season, but we've covered off the chocolate orange stuff, so we're providing a service. Whether it's a good service or not, it remains to be seen. But it's a service of sorts.
Everyone email Terry and tell him to sponsor this podcast.
Oh yeah, we said we could buy Rotherham. They're clearly a very rich company.
Oh, yeah. But it might change the kit into an orange one, though. Then I'd be a bit disappointed. Yeah.
As long as it's the away kit, I don't mind an orange away kit. I can get on board with that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Can anybody tell that we're delaying talking about football?
Clutching at straws, I think it's called.
We're clutching at straws, yeah. Let's go through who was with us. Emma says, "Evening all. Sure, we're looking over our shoulders. Could easily lose the next three. Could be more than that, Emma." Fisherman Sid's with us is Joe and Archer, YouTube user Martin Holland, Paula Rose this evening, all feeling like Groundhog Day. Stephen Mick's with us, Scott Kent's evening, lads. People are starting to see that change is needed in both manager and board. Unless fans voice their opinion, the club's going back to League Two. Miller 6 says, evening, everybody. Another tactically inept performance. To be fair, though, Barnsley were as bad. Not a relegation battle. My backside cannot see where the points are coming from. Gordon Grant says, pity the Millers could not have won that game in the 12 minutes that we were very good. Power Mad evening all. The weather was nice on Saturday. That is a positive because the weather was beautiful yesterday.
Yes, it was.
It was very, very nice. Eggs in the concourse. Harry's on it. Yeah, if Terry's take over, chocolate eggs in the concourse.
But if Ellie or sell them, they'll be 15 quid a piece, won't they?
And they'll somehow frozen before getting served.
Yeah, either burnt or frozen.
Yeah, that's true.
Imagine a burnt chocolate orange. That'd be a new one, wouldn't it?
Just a bit flat.
Yeah.
It'd
be flat and weirdly crispy.
Anyway. We've got Neil with us, as is Steve. Gauntlet. Harry says, can you promise a Mick rant? You'll probably get one. We got one on the instant reaction, so I'm sure we'll get one on. Lisa's with us. Mike the Miller says, tactically and motivationally inept, Evans and Rain are surely heading for a large dark hole, and the big danger is the club is in real danger of falling into it as well, and that hole is League Two. Paula Rhodes. I'm loving this chocolate chat, by the way. Paula Rhodes deep fried chocolate orange.
No, no.
Oh,
No. Paula, what?
the English version of a
on.
deep fried Mars bar. Oh yes.
Yeah. Right. Let's take it back to football. I asked in the Discord group for some questions to go through, and we got actually quite a lot. Some really good questions as well. So we're going to go through some of them. I'm going to say Lee C, who sent us one. He asked 3 questions. He said, "Is it the first game you remember we played 6 at the back and 5 up front in one game? And what was the formation we played in the first half?" I think we've done a 6-5 before this season. And I think we've talked about it. I think I've done before this season. I hadn't seen that. But mate, let's start kind of tactically, because we're no tactics experts. We're obviously not the professionals, and that's obviously an ongoing joke this season. But it's obviously true. We seem to set up in a 5-2-3. So we surrendered the centre of the pitch, which is an interesting tactic. What you normally see when you surrender an area of the pitch, so let's say you surrender the centre, you're then really strong in the wide areas. Well, we didn't do either of those. I didn't really understand where we surrendered that area of the pitch to become stronger in another area. We weren't strong in another area by losing a man in the middle.
I had no idea what on earth that were all about. I don't know. I mean, we've got a midfielder playing left back or left wing back, but he didn't really play left wing back. He played left back. We've got a left back playing a central defender as a one of the 3 central defenders who was not much taller than me, to be fair. We had 2 players in midfield in Mpanzu and Mr. Powell here, who we just lost because they got so much space to cover, and then we just hoofed it up to Hugill and the three up front. And it wouldn't stick, or it did stick, to be fair, a few times, but I don't understand. It was just, well, I'm not surprised. I don't think anybody's surprised really that we tried something different that nobody expected. And I mean, nobody expected, including the players, by the looks of it. It was just, it weren't great, were it? It weren't great at all. I don't know what you were expecting to achieve. I just don't understand, because I don't know. Is he expecting Rafferty and Sibley to be bombing on? And if he was expecting that, did he actually think about telling them that that's what they should do? I genuinely don't know. It was just another mess, weren't it? It's so difficult to pick anything positive at all. It really is, And Panzo and Powell they ran the socks off, but they just ran in circles, and they had no chance at all. And as a consequence, it just knocked all the stuffing and confidence out of Powell. He had a shocker of a game.
Yeah, he does.
He couldn't find a man. He didn't know where he was meant to be. He tried to get out wide, and when he did get out wide, nobody joined him. It was just terrible.
Yeah. Brian Burns says, "You can't tell me that the squad wouldn't be higher in the league under another manager." He also has that Texan bars are legendary. I'm unfamiliar with the Texan bar. Matt Miller, players look utterly bemused by what they were being asked to do. It was nonsense tactic that backfired spectacularly, producing one of the season's worst performances. And that is saying something. We've had some bad performances.
Set the bar pretty low for that. If we've achieved that, that's
Danny. The issues got shone within 5 minutes when obviously Reese James should have given away a penalty. That was instantly a problem. Reese James was playing left-hand side of a centre of a back 3. The ball was just cleared over the top by Barnsley. And he finds himself kind of in the middle, and it should have been a penalty. And for me, it's a red card because there was no clear attempt for the ball. The issue was instant. 5 minutes in, there was a problem, and nothing was done.
No, nothing was done at all, but it sort of exposes our stubbornness with trying to force something to work. And bit like my Wi-Fi, and that's the wrong way to approach it. I mean, obviously, you don't want to go too far one way and keep tweaking things every single time it doesn't work, because then you start turning into Pep Guardiola. But just manage it a little bit better. If something isn't quite working, you just sort of make that little adjustment. I mean, I was talking in the pub today, and we were talking about the Newcastle Forest game, and Newcastle are 4-1 up at half time, and this guy who was in the pub, he says the best thing to do is not be complacent with it. You'd sort of adjust to Forest's adjustment, because they will adjust that to try and get something out of the game. You can't just sit on it and go with it. And it's the same with us, with the tactics we employed against Barnsley. If it's not working, you don't just keep at it, because Barnsley will keep picking away at it, and then they'll find the way through it. You have to adjust. You have to be mobile. You have to, be proactive with how you approach a football game now. You can't just keep hammering at something and hope it works. But we do that every single game effectively. And lo and behold, we've now lost, is it 4 in a row that we've lost now?
Birmingham, Reading, this one, was Shrewsbury as well in there as well. So 4, yeah. Yeah,
so it's just, you just can't cut it. And if you know James is susceptible to a ball over the top, you adjust it. You make your man back not quite as far forward. You like with the lack of players in midfield. Funnily enough, it's the only position we signed players in the last window. Funny that. But to be so short in midfield, it's like, but that's where effectively the progression happens. That's where you move defence into attack, and I think to defence is using your midfield. But if you don't have a midfield to use, you get caught out, you get caught short, or you just get played through. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. As Sarah Ogden says at one point in the first half, it looked like we were playing a 5-2-2-1 with Hugill up top and on. Sarah's absolutely right, but there was also a time in the first half where it looked like Hugill was playing as a 10 with Wilkes and Nombe in front of him. It was just weird. It looked like they were just been told, just keep rotating where you're playing. I suppose that's a method, I suppose. But I've never seen it before with the 3 kind of rotating like that, especially with players so different. This is not 3 players that are the same that are kind of rotating. Hugo's a completely different player, so it didn't feel like it made any sense at all. We'll come on to the Hugill miss later on. But the worst thing about it, the frustrating thing about it is that Barnsley are clearly a good team. We saw at their place that they've got some quality and they can hurt teams. That Barnsley team yesterday was one of the teams lowest on confidence I can remember at New York Stadium. Other than us, they were there for the taking. They looked almost scared at times in that first half, and it just needed a couple of Rotherham players to step up, take control of the game, and we would have won that game. Because if we'd have scored first, they'd have imploded. You could kind of see it in the players, but we allowed them to get that foothold. And they managed the game reasonably well. Throughout the entire game, and we allowed them to manage it. Even when we were chasing the game, we allowed them to manage the game out.
I mean, to be fair, the Barnsley players did us a bit. They even tried to help us out by getting their own crowd on their back.
Yeah,
Even that didn't kick us hard enough up backside to do anything positive and to try and get a foothold in game. I don't know. I've no idea. It was just the usual Saturday afternoon, wasn't it? Realistically, I mean that's the best way to describe it. And we can sit here all night and say, well, it were bad because of this, it were bad because of the other. This part were bad, that part were bad. We've all seen it. What else can we say about it? And I know that's not great for a podcast that you're trying to fill an hour with, but ultimately, we've said there's nothing happened yesterday that hasn't already happened this season to one degree or another. It was lackluster. It was just, I can't think of another way of describing it. Nobody on either team wanted to grab that game by the short and curlies and do something with it. Nobody, or nobody was able to, put it that way.
Yeah.
And if you're a manager stood on the sideline, surely you can see that as well. you must be able to see that this is not working. Surely, you know, and we can't. You're not telling me that they sit at Roundwood all week having conversations about what we're going to do on Saturday, and then turn that out. There's no clear instructions. There can't be any clear instructions, any clear guidelines, any clear coaching, any clear tactics that these players are being asked to implement. There can't possibly be.
Well, there's two options, isn't there? Either there is a clear instruction and the players aren't listening and they're choosing not to follow the instruction, or there is no instruction. It's one of those two, though.
But yeah, if there were clear instructions, it wouldn't happen week after week after week after week. There would be some indication at some point in the last 32 games, 31 games, whatever it is, that they'd had some clear instructions and they knew what they were supposed to be doing. It would be there. It would have been there at some point, and it hasn't been. Even when we were playing well, in inverted commas, let me rephrase that. Even when we were winning games in January, the quality of the performance tactically wasn't much different to the way it is now. Very little. Maybe there was a little bit more fight and a little bit more enthusiasm to play the game and to get involved in the game. That's probably all it was. Tactically, I don't think there was a great deal of difference. So yeah, I've no idea. I just don't understand. I don't understand how they're supposedly being coached. I just don't. And I come back to this week after week. I don't think they are. I genuinely don't think with this deep into a season with a squad of probably without exception highly experienced players. You know, we've not got any 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds in this squad. You know, they've all been around the block a bit to some degree or another. And a lot of them have been around the block a lot. And yet, week in, week out, we're having the same thing. This is not. I can't see how this is a player issue. I genuinely can't, because they're experienced enough to know and do what they're told to do, and they're not. They're just not been told. They're just not been coached. I don't know. And then to turn up yesterday and play essentially a 5-2-3. That's just what?
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't know what to say.
Adam Hardcastle sums it up pretty well. Game plan is give it to Wilkes. And that's what it was. And the hope that Wilkes will take the ball forward. And he did, to be fair. In the first half, Wilkes was all right. He managed to carry the ball forward and disappeared completely in the second half, which might not be entirely his fault. But yeah, we will come on to Hugill in a minute, Matt, in the middle of the comment, but we'll go through some other comments. Chris Page says, opposition scouts, managers probably laughing at us. Kaylee Wilson says he isn't doing too well with Tony Stewart. YouTube user says, what the hell do they do at Roundwood? We'll come on to George and Clark Harris, but Scott Kent says what topped it off for him, I think it was an 8th minute of injury time when Clark Harris tried to control it after a bounce 6 yards out with the keeper coming towards him. All they do was head it over him. Awful. I know because his opinion on that particular moment, so we'll come on to that in a bit. But yeah, Jordan Hugill, Danny, I thought he was doing all right. I thought he won a reasonable amount of headers. I don't think he was as good as he was at Reading, but I don't think he was the worst player on the pitch. But that miss, you can't legislate for that kind of miss. For an experienced striker, I think he's out of form or whatever, but for an experienced striker like Jordan Hugill, there's no defending that miss, is there?
No, not really. I mean, I said in our group chat, even I could score that. And if you want to see me do that, 9th of March down at Millmore, see if I could actually score that type of chance. But no, I mean, part of me wants to play devil's advocate with it, and it does take an ever so slight deflection on its way through to Hugill. But playing into what you've just said, Matt, an experienced striker adjusts himself to get in the 6-yard box something on the ball just to get us, ahead or get a goal back or whatever. But Hugill just sort of, and sort of does nothing by trying to do something. I don't know how he's done it, to be honest, but it also screams a striker that's out of form, but also out of favour. And with Hugill going off at half time, that also says very much out of favour and that Evans wants to get rid of him. Whether he said that or not, well, we sort of made that assumption earlier on in the season, didn't we? But it's to me, John Hugill sort of sums up the team as a whole. They have that ability to have a good game of football, like Hugill did against Reading, but they're so uncoordinated and distant from each other in terms of being a team. That's why we get a flat. There's no aggression. There's no willingness to actually achieve something in a game of football. It's just so disjointed. And Hugill, with that chance, he was just disjointed from the situation he was in. He ended up looking a bit of a fool by missing from 3 yards out. When, say, for example, if we were on a similar run that we went on in the last time we were in League One, Hugill scores that every day of the week. But because we're in the rut that we're in right now, Hugill, him, like the rest of the squad, are out of confidence, and a lot of them are out of favour. I could probably name you 2 players that Evans wants here next season, and probably both his own signings.
Yeah. Mike Miller says, was Hugill injured or hooked at half-time as punishment for missing the chance just for half-time? If it's the latter, that's a disgrace from Evans, who refuses to take responsibility for the mess. Paul Davis confirmed he was not injured. It was a tactical change make. And he's a manager. He's entitled to make those changes.
Yeah, he is.
He brought Andre Green on, who I like. I'm not convinced Andre Green touched the ball until about the 70th minute. He literally didn't get involved in the game.
No.
Whereas Hugill, we can all discuss whether Hugill was good or bad. Hugill was constantly in the middle of the action. Whether it was winning the ball or winning fouls or losing the ball or losing fouls, he was in the middle of the action. He was impacting the game one way or another. And we needed that. We needed somebody impacting the game. And I didn't get the substitution. When it happened at half-time, I was really surprised because I thought he was having a relatively positive impact on the game, Hugill, other than the miss.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said on the post-match, I speculated on the post-match that that substitution was made as either Steve Evans or Paul Rayner Paddy, because he'd missed that sitter. And I if he's not injured, then I think I've no evidence to suggest that it's true, but I think that's a childish Paddy from either one or both of the managers and an assistant manager. You've missed that. Get off. That's my view. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. But I would not be in the least little bit surprised, not at all. And you know, that kind of sums it up, doesn't it? That's kind of sums it up. That's the sort of under 8 management style that we've got in it. You know, just rubbish. I don't know. I can't think of another reason why he's fetched him off. Because, as you say, he was the only one up there that was holding up the ball to any sort of degree. I think it's pathetic, quite frankly. But not the only thing, is it? So
no,
doesn't surprise me.
No, Paul Jarrett say Hugill thinks made scapegoat. We want to clear up. John Fellows says, I'm sure Hugill was in his car leaving the main car park just at full time. Yeah, well, Hugill was leaving after we'd finished the instant reaction, which takes about 20 minutes after full time to him. So he wasn't kind of straight out of there. We saw him in his car leaving as we'd finished. So I don't think there certainly wasn't kind of a storming out kind of thing from Hugill.
No,
quickly. It feels weird defending Hugill after how much criticism we've given this season. To be honest with you, I just felt like it's.
Yeah, but listen, the last few games he has put the effort in, and he has impacted games. You know, and like Danny's alluded to earlier on, he's out of touch as a striker. And yes, that ball was 8 inches out, 12 inches out, but it came to him at just above hip height. A little bit too low to head, a little bit too high to kick. He's tried to get his knee on it and failed. You know, I don't think it's not a tap in. This is not a ball that's just rolled across 6-yard line and he's skewed it wide. It wasn't. I'm going to say it weren't a simple chance. It's simple in the sense that it's only a yard out. He's still got to finish it. He's still got to get something on it, and he wasn't able to get anything on it for whatever reason. So yeah, he should have scored, absolutely, and he'll know he should have scored as well. But yeah, the manager and assistant manager clearly feel that that's deserving of being made an example of, perhaps.
Yeah. Martin Rush will ask, why are we not asking the question whether Evans should be questioned? It's the main question. We'll come on to that, Martin. I want to try and talk about the game. I want to try as normal a podcast as we possibly can, because I feel like over the last 6 months or so, all we've done on all these podcasts is talk about, should Evans be here? Should Stewart be here? Let's try and talk about the football for a little bit. We will definitely get onto that, Martin. There's lots to talk about in terms of that. We're not skipping the question, which I just want to try and get through the game if we can. Although Steve Mick makes a good point, this is getting depressing. Can we get back to chocolate chat? That's always an option. We'll talk about the penalty. Does anybody have a view on the penalty incident that should have come to us? I haven't seen a replay. I can't remember it.
Is this the one just before Hugill's missed chance?
I can't remember it.
Because in the build up to Hugill's missed chance, the ball goes long. It's between Numbe and whatever Barnsley player it was. And from looking at the replay, it's 6 1 and half a dozen other. They've both got older each other. They sort of just one pulls at one, other one pulls at other, and they both just sort of fall over. I'm sure if we had VAR, they'd find something wrong with it. But in that sort of split second decision, referees looked at it and just gone, nah, they've got older each, and that's why he's not given it. And we sort of just carry on anyway. You know, Wilkes picks up the ball, it goes across the 6-yard box, and then Hugill misses. So I think if it was more of a serious shout for a penalty, our players would be all over it.
Possibly.
But the Barnsley thinks it's more of a foul than Numbe does in that situation. He calls for it more than Numbe does. So for me, it's a 50-50. I could see it getting why it would be given, but I can also see why it's not been given because they both it together.
Yeah. Harry says it was a penalty. Mike Miller says yes, it was. Danny, no pen, both players wrestling each other. EFL don't give us penalties. I don't know if anybody's heard that.
What was the stat you told us in pre-match lobby, Matt?
We've been given the 6th most penalties in the division. So you know, EFL don't give us penalties though, guys. Don't just remember that. Other than the one that got given 7 days ago, EFL don't give us penalties. Let's talk about 5 minutes before the penalty, though, Danny, because that does deserve a bit of praise. We came out from half time and there was a positive. We got a few corners rubbish, but we built up a little bit of steam. And I remember Mick saying to me, why can't we play like this from start? There was something straight after half time. So it's interesting that Evans was able to get a tune out of the players for a very short time, but it was able to do something. And it's interesting that it only lasted 5 minutes, but there was a positive aspect for a short time there.
Yeah, I mean, half-time team talks do count for something, it seems. And I do think he injected a bit of, in his own way, come on, lads, we can actually play better than this. And we did. We came out second half. We looked a lot better. Set pieces are still, I can't describe them politely with all you guys about, but yeah, you know which word I'm getting at.
Yes. And
we looked a bit brighter. I think if we were a bit better confidence-wise over the last 5 games, the corners might have been better, the ball through might have been better, and we may have nicked a goal against Barnsley, but the penalty incident just sort of summed it up as well. You know, we were playing well, and then we just shot ourselves in the foot, which then gave Barnsley the opportunity to just effectively take control of the game, really, because after that, I thought they were a bit time wasting, if I'm being honest. But when you've not won in as many games as Barnsley, I completely understand it, because I'd want us to do the same thing, see the game out, get the result on the cards and build from it, build from there. Because Barnsley are in a much better position for the playoffs than we are, much better. So those 3 points are more crucial for them at the minute. But yeah, like I said, we were the masters of our own downfall there. It was the header back that just absolutely killed it. And I don't know what else Phillips could have done. Maybe his timing could have been a bit better. It does look like he's flapped at it, but then that sums up our season. We're just sort of flapping at it. And yeah, Barnsley goes down, nailed on penalty.
Yeah, it is. Brian Venner says, us looking good is clutching at straws if Christ. Well, Evans said we were good for 13 minutes. I think he said. Anybody watched the Radio Sheffield, it got very close to a Steve Evans Paddy Leighton Orient style. But to be fair to the report, where I can't remember with Adam Oxley or the other, I can't remember his name now, not Stern. Can't remember. It was one of those two anyway. Say again?
Giddins?
Could have been Giddins. I can't remember now. Whatever it was, said it as if we weren't very good for a period of time. Evans started getting on his high horse, and then the reporter kind of just cooled it down a little bit quite quickly. I think if he didn't do that, Evans would have gone on one, and it would have been quite uncomfortable again. So I think once again, the reporter's done a very, very good job there of not. I think he saved Evans, to be honest with you. I think he saved Evans going off on one. But anyway, yeah, the penalty. Penalty was given on 50. It scored on 52 minutes, by the way. So 30 minutes seems a bit strong. But anyway, but Danny summed it up pretty nicely, I think. Adam Oxley. Thank you very much, Paul. Adam Oxley. He's very, very good. I thought it was a good interview.
We'll just name all the sports presenters on Radio Sheffield and we'll get it right.
He's obviously got a problem with Adam Oxley, hasn't he? Because it was Adam he fell out with at Orient as well, weren't it? So he obviously don't like him for whatever reason.
Yeah. I thought it was a good interview. But anyway, that's Evans' problem, not mine. The penalty decision, like Danny summed it up pretty well there, Mick. It was one of those things. Reese James had an absolute rotten game. And he's playing out of position, so you can cut him a little bit of slack. For me, James probably needs taking out that team. I mean, we can't because we ain't got players to do so. No. But I think he just needs to step out. He should have given a penalty in the first half. He was responsible for the penalty in the second half. He got caught over the top so many times. And I see it cost us the game essentially. It's harsh to say, but he has, and he's just having a really, really bad time.
Well, I mean, it's almost as if he's not tall enough to play centre half, isn't it? I mean, if only there was somewhere telling whether or not he were tall enough.
Yeah.
He didn't have a great game, did he? Let's be fair. 2 mistakes. The first one didn't get punished, should have got punished. Nailed on penalty, and arguably a red card, as you say, because he made no attempt to play the ball. The referee bottled that one, I think, because it would have been a red card, and I don't think he. It was so clear. Obviously, this one again, absolute nailed on penalty. It's just what can I say? That's it. That is genuinely it. We got caught out. It was on a break. We got no width on either side, and the ball came down their left. They switched it to the right, down their left, where they play. In actual fact, I thought at the time, well, what's he switched it for? Because he's got acres to run into. And then I looked up and realised they'd also got acres on the other side. I don't know why I was surprised, because that's what we've talked about for however long now, and it was just too high for James to get enough on it. He's tried to head it back to the keeper. Shouldn't have done that. He just head it backwards and head it out. He obviously realised he weren't going to get enough on it. Well, a bit late by that point, isn't it? He's made a mistake. I'm not going to call him out for it. It's not, it happens, but. And Phillips is nowhere near where he should be. I'm not blaming him for it, but he can see what's happening and he can see where it's going. He needed to be coming that little bit closer. We'll come on to his position in a minute for the next penalty shout. But yeah, absolute nailed on penalty. Got what we deserve.
Yeah, they scored penalty, nice enough penalty. Phillips goes the other way. Game them wrong. But
I said this to you at the time. On the run up to the penalty, while they're prepping to take the penalty, Phillips was having a conversation with one of the Rotherham players. I can't remember which one it was. And he's pointing to his left. He's pointing with his hand, indicating this is going to go to the left. And he did it a couple of times. I don't know who it was, whether it was Jules or I'm not sure, but he was having a conversation over some distance. So he's using kind of hand signals as well. And he's indicating left, going left. So they take the penalty and he dives right. The penalty goes left.
He even fakes going right before going right as to try and put the player off. It's like you don't fake the same direction that you go in. That's like
yeah. Anyway,
it's like,
I mean, again,
that way, go the other way then.
We can be critical, can't we? And you know, he's got to make a choice, and he's made a choice. He's made the wrong one. Like keepers do a good proportion at times. So
yeah. They then took control of the game.
Sorry, Matt. The one bit I do like in this that it was Phillips defending the penalty, but Phillips taking the penalty as well, which I thought was quite.
Yeah,
nice.
It was. I did like that as well. Yeah. Big fan of that. Big fan.
Bit of positivity. Phillips against Phillips. There you go.
Yeah. They took control of the game after that. Our 5-minute spell, which was only a 5-minute spell, disintegrating into kind of nothingness, then becomes the third penalty, which is fourth penalty claim of the game, which for me is probably the biggest penalty out of all of them. Matt Miller, as we know, Matt Miller is a former referee, likes defending referees. I like the defending referees, but for the life of me, I can't see how Jules' handball wasn't given. If that wasn't blatant, I have no idea what is. Steve Evans said that he wasn't sure if this was a penalty because Jules wasn't
sure if it was a penalty.
Let's be fair, and I don't want to be fair to Evans particularly, but I will be. From his position, he maybe can't see how blatant it was.
No, he says that the reason he didn't think it was is because Jules was being pulled and pushed. That's why it wasn't a penalty.
Yeah, but he bounced the ball like he's like Michael Jordan, kept possession of it and cleared it.
But it's the most nailed on penalty hasn't been given this season, and I want someone to prove me wrong on that. Because like you've just said, it's just come up on the replay. He just bounces it like he's playing basketball. His hand legit comes out and he bounces it down. It's like I can see where Evans is coming from. To be fair to him, with him being pulled,
there's a bit of contact, but
there's a bit of contact. But you don't then go, "Oh, I'm going to try and swat the ball away." This isn't Thierry Henry against Ireland, and trying to get the ball away. I mean, the referee has a straight view of it as well, and he's not giving it. And he even follows it through with his hand movement outside of his body. It's nailed on. Maybe the referee took pity on us.
I don't know where the referee was. I can't remember where he was. But I mean, the linesmen were so close. Jules nearly hit him in the face with his hand. It was so blatant. But
between the referee and the linesman, they have got a perfect view of that. The linesman even more so.
Yeah.
Liner's got no excuse.
Yeah, and the liner was absolutely overplayed.
It should be given. Barnsley got robbed of a second penalty.
Easily. One of those where you watch it and you go, "Oh, it's a penalty."
Yeah.
And then nothing happens. There's no whistle coming out. Oh, it just didn't quite make sense. Darren Cooks is the worst refereeing decision I've seen this season. It's definitely up there, Darren. We got robbed last week. We're all on there. We got robbed last week. But Evans, you've got to come out and kind of say we got away with it. I know we lost the game, but we got away with one big time there. And how many other penalties? We've got 4 penalties this season. I think at least 2 of them will go into the soft category. I don't like this blaming the referees kind of thing, especially when we've had a good season refereeing wise. You're going to have good games, bad games. We got away with 2 massive decisions on Saturday. It could have been 3-0 down. It could have been worse. We were red card in the first one in Reese James. So we're very, very lucky it was only 1-0. Take it. Just take the look you've been given. Don't complain about them further. Just madness. Just pure madness. But yeah, the rest of the game, Danny, we'll talk about the subs in a minute, but it just kind of died a death the rest of the game. Barnsley were in complete control. They lack that edge. They've I don't think they'll make the playoffs because they lack that quality. But at the same time, they were in complete control of the game. And there was only going to be one win. I never felt we were going to do something and have a spell after 65 minutes onwards.
No, I agree. It somehow went even flatter than we've been playing before, and it sort of felt like Barnsley were complacent in what they were doing, and we were complacent in what Barnsley were doing as well. And again, it goes back to what we said before. There was just no fight or motivation to even try and get a result out of it. All right, fair enough with Reading with the last minute penalty. Yeah, we could have got a result out of that, but we didn't. But with the Barnsley game, they scored on 52 minutes. That's a long time in a football game to at least get something back, even to snatch a draw out of it. But we didn't even feel like we were going forward enough to score. It didn't feel like we created enough out wide the entire game. And we just didn't utilise the few strengths we've got at all. We didn't utilise Green's pace with giving him the ball and beating players. We underutilised Wilkes. I think they had only one opportunity of his, infamous cut inside and shoot with his left foot, because he scored some absolute corkers with that even this season. And we didn't utilise that enough. We didn't utilise Nombe enough. We just didn't utilise the few assets we've got enough. And that is down to tactics. We surrendered tactics to Barnsley after they scored and went, it's happened again. Well, we can't be doing that. We've got to the point now where, and this is what the commentator said, I'm quoting the commentator after the game finished, even the most optimistic Rotherham fan must admit that the playoffs have gone. And I immediately thought of you, Matt, because you were the last person to say the playoffs were still reachable. But even now, it's just like, right, we need to push up the tables because we're still looking over our shoulder now. And it didn't feel like that. It felt like a team that's just gone, what happens this season, which isn't good enough. But I've said that the entire season. This entire season has not been good enough. What we were sold in pre-season, it's not been good enough at all. No,
it's not. Scott Kennedy was gutless, and that's being nice. Harry says, didn't he manage to blame the last week's referee on yesterday's game? Yes, he did. Devon suggested that we essentially a hangover from the Reading game last week. Was one of the reasons.
And with that, if you lose like that, it's a gut punch to lose like that. But you shake your down and go, right, we're going to get a positive game. We're going to get a positive game against Barnsley. It's a derby. Let's get motivated for it. We were never motivated for that game. We're just like, we've beaten us before. We'll let them beat them again. Be right.
I wondered the fans, the not fans forum, what's it called? What is it on Thursday? Where the kids could come and watch them train. Essentially, I thought that potentially was going to be a really good thing, where the players can meet some of the fans and it builds a bit of a positive atmosphere from the players. We've seen it before, when we had the awards ceremony before the end of the season under Warney, and we then went and won the next game, and Warney talks about how that was quite a big evening because the players connected with the fans so close to the end of the season. I was kind of hoping that it actually might be a bit of a blinder and that the players might react to that. And Evans might react to that as well, but it's just samey.
The comment about last week's penalty having an impact. Who does he think? Who's he talking to? What does he think that we as supporters? Does he actually think that anybody in the world is going to swallow that? I mean, that's was that a post match? Is that part of his post match report? Right. Well, I mean, I'll cut him a little bit of slack there because he's still sort of annoyed and everything else from the game. But I mean, that's just so stupid. How does he expect anybody to believe that? Genuinely, footballers with the experience that we've got in this squad know that you get given penalties against you in the last minute of games and you lose. It'll happen to all of them at some point throughout their career. And all of them are mentally capable of dealing with that because they're all fully functioning adults. Who is he talking to? It's just, honestly, some of the crap that comes out is it. We need somebody at the club that needs to keep him away from microphones. They really do, don't they? Because as soon as he gets near one, it's just nonsense.
Cue him coming back on New York Talk.
Well, he can come on, and we can ask him, "What the hell was all that about?" Do you expect us to actually believe that?
Talking nonsense is much more entertaining on YouTube than it is in actual official post-match reactions.
Correct. We can ask him what his thoughts are on chocolate, cherry chocolate, orange eggs.
Can you imagine if he's next into Radio Sheffield? They ask him, "What's your opinion on cherry chocolate orange mini eggs?"
Ask the real questions, Radio Sheffield. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
come on.
None of this are Rotherham in a relegation fight. Oh no! What's your favourite cream egg?
Yeah. I was kidding, Power Man. You want him on the podcast, but don't want him to speak. I was kidding. We're not going to get him back on podcast, I don't think, anytime soon. If you're still in the summer, maybe, but not for the time being. I don't think it's a good idea. Adam Hardcastle. More entertaining getting Tony Stewart to do the post matches. Yes, it would.
Debatable.
Be terrible. Paul Rose earlier on said, "Can we just touch on how awful Barnsley's away kit is? Yeah, terrible, or just awful."
Although it's not as bad as our own couple seasons ago, you know, like weird star design that they had. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah. Ellen Martin Burns says they are being coached to me. Have too many players looking for a last payday, and you could also say this about Steve Evans. He says, "Mark said I can't remember them pressing them yesterday. We seem to stay compact. This against a team who are poor in form." This brings on to the next topic. Gordon Grant, not his quote, but Johnson Clark Harris has gone from Golden Boot to Wellington Boot. Yeah, Johnson Clark Harris came on. I'll find what time he came on in a minute, Danny. But he tried starting more fights than he did controlling the football. I mean, he's clearly bang out of form. He's clearly not match fit. But my God, we've got a problem. If he's the go-to guy off the bench as striker, we've got a problem with him because he is so far off it at the minute.
Yeah, he came on 63 minutes. That's when he came on.
We had age, half an hour, more than half an hour to do something.
Yeah, and he wanted to start fights with people rather than play football. But yeah, he came off for Louis Sibley, which I thought was an interesting one because it sort of took that midfield, and all of our changes were attacking changes when you could argue that we needed a bit more strength in midfield, or to just even if you brought Clark Harris on, play him as how he is as a number 9. You know, that target man to hold up the ball or to turn and go. You know, he's got Green and Nombe on his flanks who've got pace. Turn and go. Use the pace out wide, but us playing out wide's like trying to put water in a colander. It's not going to stick, is it? And Clark Harris, he felt like he wanted to inject a bit more of a derby feel into it, if I'm being honest, you know, with the whole starting fights thing. It felt like he was the only one that treated it as a derby and got fired up for it. But at the same time, it felt like he got a bit too fired up for it. It were a bit too aggro with everybody rather than calming the game down and playing actual football. They were a bit too keen, I thought. And yeah, like I think most of the games that he's come on as a sub, he's looked off it. You know, he's looked off it quite a lot this season, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's 100% fit, even though we're only playing him at 100% fit, to quote Evans in the past. And I think it's just getting him back as being starting striker so we don't have to play Hugill. Because like I said before, he's quite clearly out of favour. We just want Clark Harris to be fit enough to start.
Yeah. Mark says, had to laugh when we got a corner or a free kick and nobody knew who was taking it. Yeah. Really organised, this team. Yeah, we'll come on to the kind of post, but I do want to take the handshake thing off. There's a few Barnsley fans suggesting that Evans didn't wait to shake the hands of Darrell Clark. He absolutely did. I can confirm that. I was watching it. I always watch to what Steve Evans does, see if he's got the guts to kind of clap the fans and come round. He waited for Darrell Clark, shook his hand and went. So there's no criticism on that point of view. So I think that's important to carry that up, because criticising where it's fair, but that wasn't fair on Evans, to be fair to him. But post-match, Mick, there were banners. Powerman has a question in the Discord group, which we asked for questions through. Is it okay to display an Evans out banner? Are they passionate fans who see a problem, they're trying to do something, or are they part of the problem is doing nothing better? So this was after the full-time whistle, so a lot of fans may not be there, but there was a banner set next to the home dugout that said Evans out. Not seen this reported anywhere either, so this might be a New York Talk exclusive. But it was definitely there. We make I'm sure other people saw it. Mick, what were your thoughts on? Because we saw it in Everton, we saw it at the Bolton fans. That was during the game when they were getting back to 3-0. What are your thoughts on it?
Slippery slope, innit?
Yeah.
People. A lot of people feel that way, and a lot of people make it clear on social media. They make it clear. Certainly, when I speak to fans, and when we all speak to people, mates, so we know in pub or whatever, you know, there's a lot of people feel that it's time for him to leave. So it's only a matter of time before that finds its way onto a match day, and these things will happen because nothing is improving. Nothing at all is improving. So, it's a slippery slope when you get to that point, I think. It certainly, if it gains any more traction, then the end will be nigh, I think, because I don't think the club can come back from that. I don't think I'll be surprised. I'm sure in the history of football where sets of supporters have wanted managers out of their club and they've managed to turn it around. I'm sure it has happened at some point, but generally what happens is the manager ends up going. We'll see what happens, but yeah, I think it's the start of a. Let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see what happens. I don't particularly have a view on it one way or the other, quite frankly. I know some people have strong views, and I think the bloke who was the person who was holding the banner, I think it was a bloke. It appeared from a distance, with the opposite end of the stadium, it appeared from a distance that he was getting a little bit of flack from a couple of people. So yeah, here we are again, sort of into February now, and when we talked in June or whenever it was he were appointed, and we talked about the fact that it polarises people's opinion, here it is again, still February, polarising people's opinion and splitting the fan base, splitting the supporters who should be all getting behind the team. We've got a person in charge of the team who 50% or more of the fan base don't want to hear. Probably more than that now. So it's not a great situation, but we're just going to have to wait and see how it pans out, aren't we? And like you said earlier on, we've covered this many, many times on this podcast, and I'm sure we'll cover it again. Well, we definitely will cover it again because he's not going to be here forever. So it just feels like forever. Saturday afternoon felt like forever, and every game feels like forever at the moment. But yeah, it's interesting to see how it develops, if it develops.
Yeah. It's just David Lewis says it was a bit of rag with Evans out, wrote and pen. That's it was a banner.
Pretty much sums up what a banner is, isn't it? I guess. sorry, that sounds like we've been a bit. Sorry, Dave. Apologies. Chris Wright says
we didn't mean that. I didn't, so we apologise.
Chris Wright says no comment on the shoot again. Was he on holiday in Pluto? Not sure if he was there yesterday. There was somebody that kind of looked like him, but we sit so far away, it's impossible. It was impossible to tell yesterday.
I think it was him. I think he was certainly there in the first half. He weren't there at the end of the game. I didn't see whether he came out for the second half or not. I don't know. It's irrelevant that really. Ultimately, whether he stays for the full match or otherwise is just it's a moot point. He ain't going to have any impact about what's happening on the pitch directly. So, yeah.
And I know there'll be some people saying, "Why aren't we talking about Tony Stewart out?" We talked about it a lot. We will talk about it again. I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
We've had so much stick for talking about it far too often as well.
We've also we have stick. Well, we do get stick, man. It's comes because we're compensated heartily financially.
It's the creative insults that I like. To be fair, I love a good creative insult on Twitter.
I haven't seen any creative insults for quite some time, to be honest with you, right? That's all the same sense.
There were a few corkers a few weeks ago, but they've just been generic ones recently, haven't they?
It's all samey. It's all samey. There's no imagination from kids nowadays. It was 6 points of the play. 6 points of the relegation.
In your dreams, mate.
God, can you imagine?
Rotherham fans showing, Matthew.
Yeah, exactly. 6 points of the relegation zone, Danny, and Burton are in form. Peterborough won at the weekend. Northampton won at the weekend. We've got Bristol Rovers next, who can overtake us with the victory. Adam Carcass was, do people think there's a chance they could go this week? The fact you're within 6 points, 6 points is a scary gap. It feels if it's 7 points, it's 3 games. And I know we won't be in the relegation because they're in 2 games' time because there's too many teams in between us. But it just gets you up a little bit when it drops to 6 points, doesn't it?
I think it's a miracle we're on 38 points and we're 14th. We are like in that nice little pocket banging mid-table, but this doesn't feel like mid-table form. This, like I say, 6 points off relegation. It does feel like we're on the downward turn now. And yeah, 6 points is very much a slippery slope because it's only 2 games. Like, all right, yeah, we won't be in the relegation zone, but we'll be level on points with it potentially. And it begs the question, where does it stop? I mean, my prediction for Bristol Rovers might surprise some people, but the games that are coming up, they're all teams around us. And normally with the teams around us, when we're up the top end of the league, when we do quite well against them, like we get fighting results, we nick a win, or we completely blow somebody away. And we've always said we do worse against the teams that are like historically towards the bottom end of the table. Unfortunately, that's where we are, and that's who we're playing. So it's a bit, it's a weird thing to have. But yeah, we've got the potential to put distance between us, grab a few points, move up the league a little bit, not towards the playoffs, just away from the relegation zone. But if we approach Barnsley the way that we did, Lord knows how we approach the teams around us, because it's not going to be a positive, I don't think.
No, I'll go through the fixtures in a minute. Powerman wants to know if we can do a poll. I can't find a way to do a poll on here. What I'll say, I'll put this out there. If anybody's watching, we've got 164 watching live. I'm sure there'll be loads of you watching post after as well. If you think, all I can see from the comments is Evans out. That's all I can see in these comments.
Do you want to do a poll on Twitter?
Well, what I'm going to say is if anybody in the comments and watching thinks that Evans should stay, give us your reasons. Put in the comments what your reasons are. I haven't seen a single person say that Evans should stay yet. Now, again, we can't do a poll. I could do one on Twitter, but it's just not, you know what I mean? I think Lewis did one. I think Lewis Oldham's done one, actually. So if you go to Lewis Oldham's Twitter, I'm almost certain Lewis has done one. So if you go to Lewis Oldham's Twitter, you'll be able to put a vote on there. Just, give an idea. But if anybody thinks a reason he should stay, do let us know.
Oh, good questions from Lewis as well in his poll.
Great question. It's a good poll.
Keep Evans, bring back Warne, or appoint someone new. Ooh.
It's a proper poll. It's not just in or out. It's a proper summit to it. I like that. When I saw it, I thought it was a really good one. So yeah, let me while somebody's typing up a long message about why you should stay. What are you laughing at me? What have you done?
While people are typing, they've only got 3 letters to type, all of them.
Well, while somebody out there, hopefully somebody can give us a reason. Hopefully somebody out there can give us an explanation why I think. But anyway, while we're doing that, I'm going to run through March's fixtures because they are interesting.
Oh, this is for our engagement in the comments. Look how many people are joining in now.
Oh, I know. Anyway, all right, so fixtures. Bristol Rovers away on the 1st. Leyton Orient at home. Leyton Orient were one of the form teams in probably the country. On Tuesday, the 4th. We then go away to Wrexham. We then host Wickham in a rearranged game. Then host Exeter. Go away to Bolton, who are revitalised under Stephen Schumacher. And then at the end of the month, we host Crawley. Now, there's some really tough games in there, mate. Really, really tough games there. Wrexham, Wickham, Leyton Orient. There's some matters, but there's also some winnable games. I mean, that Crawley game at the end of the month could be frighteningly important.
Yeah, it could. It's going to be a difficult month. It shouldn't be. I said this on the post match, and it was almost a team like Shrewsbury comment, weren't it? And I kind of checked myself a little bit, but it shouldn't be a tough month. Shouldn't be a tough month at all, But it will be, definitely, with the way that we're playing. There's some teams that are really in form, relatively speaking, because in form for this division is not actually in form, is it? The quality is really, really poor. So yeah, it's going to be a really tough month, and the way that we're playing at the moment, it's difficult to see where the points are going to come from. Yeah. And there is a potential at the end of March that we could be staring down the barrel of that bottom 4 if we continue to play the way that we're playing. So it's going to be really interesting, like you said. And as in my head at the moment, I don't see a win in there, quite frankly. I really don't. And there will be. There has to be. Well, there doesn't have to be be fair. But you would expect there'll be at least one in there just to hopefully keep us clawing on. because that 6 points will disappear. It can disappear very quickly. But on the flip side of that, a couple of wins takes you well away from it. So it's really on a knife edge. But the problem with it is that the level of performances is getting worse rather than better. And that's the worry. The question has to be: does the manager and his assistant have tools to improve it? And I said it in August, and I'll say it again now. No, I don't think he has. I just don't think they have. I don't think they know what to do. And I think yesterday, particularly within the second half, I think we ended up with 5 strikers on pitch.
6 if you count Andre Green.
Yeah. So that is genuinely. That's like, I don't know. It's like an infant school trying to pick a team for championship manager. It's just awful. So I'm not convinced that between Evans and Rayner, they've got the wherewithal to get us out of this.
No.
This downward spiral of poor performances. I mean, I'm not saying out of a relegation battle. I mean that sort of the slide, if you like, in levels. I just don't think they have.
No. Matt Mill, fans have spoken. Matt, no need for a poll. Want Evans out? Yeah, we have not seen a single person saying they want Evans to stay, and any reasons for it. Again, I'll put for anybody that's listening, not live as well. If there's something, if you can think of something, send it through. We'll go through it on Thursday. Assuming there's been no movement, the thoughts seem to be pretty unanimous for the people that kind of don't matter as fans. It's only Tony Stewart that matters, really, in terms of his decision.
Yeah,
we matter, obviously, but at the same time, we're not the ones making the decisions that matter. Paul Rose don't think Tony Stewart will sack him. He'll fall on his sword. He's too arrogant for that. Harry agrees with it. I don't think we'll go down. I think we'll be fine in terms of survival. I think we need 4 wins between now and the end of the season. That obviously gets you to the magic 50, and I think there's enough in this squad. But that's mad.
The fact that you just said the magic 50 and in League One, we were having this conversation last season in the Championship and the season before when we stayed up, funnily enough, on 51 points, I think it was. But to even suggest that we need 4 wins to get to magic. You, Matt, don't get me wrong. It's just it sums up the situation we're in, that we are so far off it, both as a club, in the way we play a football, the way we're managed, the way we run. It goes to show that, I mean, we, in theory, could do what Luton are doing right now if other things had happened that are worse off. We could still go down. You never know. It's not over until somebody sings, Like, all right, fair enough. I don't think we'll go down either. I think we're just above where the line is to stay up, because effectively the squad's too good to go down. It's like, I don't think Man United will go down because the squad's too good to go down. But in the same sentence, it could happen. It's not written off as we are staying up. It's very much could happen. And to have that conversation in League One, it's such an alien feeling. We've not been relegated from League One since
2007.
2007.
Yeah, and this is going to be our lowest finish in League One since 2007. That's not something you want on your CV.
No, it's absolutely not. Harry wants us to answer. Where's that comment gone from Harry? Your guys' thoughts, yes or no? Is it time to go? I hate this question. Harry's right. I feel like we're just putting this on to everyone watching us, and we should go up and kind of answer it a little bit. I thought about this, Mick, and Mick and Danny. Everything that we said that could possibly happen when he came back in last year has happened. And I don't like being one of those podcasts that goes, "We told you so," but everything's happening.
Not to quote Nigel Farage, but you all laughed at me.
yeah. And it's everything, the divisiveness between the fans, the terrible football, the disjointed of the football club, everything that I was worried that could go wrong, it's actually worse. Because I thought worst case scenario, we would be in contention for the playoffs. I thought we'd be 10th, 12th, just outside. Everything is so much worse than I thought it was going to be. And I can't give a reason why he should still be here. Is where I sit on things. And I don't like saying it, to be honest with you, because what he did for the club like first time was fantastic. Some of the best times we've had in a long time was because of Steve Evans' first time around. I just can't. I can't put a list of reasons together why I think he should still be here. Mick.
Yeah. I don't want him here. I didn't want him here in the first place. I made that abundantly clear in the summer. I got quite a bit of abuse for that. I stand by that. I didn't want him here. I don't want him here now. I have concerns that if we get rid of him, who's going to come in? I don't think anybody's going to come in. We're going to struggle to get anybody of any quality. So we're going to end up kind of either thinking outside the box or another also ran. Obviously, some people are talking about Warney being out of a job and everything else. I think we've already proved that going back to a previous manager is not always the best thing to do. Totally different people. So I wouldn't be averse to that, but I don't want him. I think he ain't going. We're just going to continue on this downward spiral. I've already said it, and I said it in the last comments that I made there, that I don't think neither him nor Rayner have got the wherewithal to get us out of the mire that they've got us in terms of performance levels and lack of any ideas or tactics. So yeah, I think it is time. Hopefully bring someone in. Hopefully we'll just keep us in this division, and then we can start to try and get back to where we were when Warney left in terms of what we were doing as a club, in terms of looking forward and trying to get younger players through and that model that we got almost. We were almost there. We were getting there. You know, we've got saleable assets and everything else because we got a manager who was forward thinking, who was a modern day manager in terms of how the club was run off the pitch from in a footballing sense. We haven't got any of that now. We've got none of that whatsoever, and that's the problem. That's a problem for the club going forward. So, while the longer him and Rayner stay here, the deeper we're going to get into that hole. I think of having no saleable assets, no players that really want to be here, a huge turnover of staff as well. Whatever else is going up in the background that we always hear the rumours about when Steve Evans turns up at a football club, all those other things. I think it is time. It was time in June, quite frankly.
It was time after the Barnsley game first time around.
Well, it was time in June before he was even appointed.
I know, yeah, no.
Well, we were back in the last season. It was April, weren't it? Yeah. So, they're not good enough. They're not up to it. It's as simple as that, and they've proved it over 32 games. So,
Richard says, "Emergency podcast tomorrow's fingers crossed." And I suppose we'll stand by, but I don't know. Matt Miller says, "Is it Tony Stewart who can sack him, or the rest will put pressure on?" The board put pressure on to not bring Evans back in the first place, so I think it can be done with. I think if you look on the website, I think Stewart owns like 96% of the club, something like that, and the rest is owned. But I think it's going to be a vast majority a Tony Stewart decision. But again, we rightly don't know the ins and outs of football, how our football club works. Talking Gas is with us, so please don't sack him before Saturday.
Listen, you got our last one, you can have this one. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. What we'll do, we'll bring him down on coach on Saturday and we'll get coach to leave without him. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
We'll tie him to a chair at the Memorial Ground and just leave him there.
And we'll throw Rayner in for free.
We've gone along a little bit. What we need to do as a show, especially these stages, we need to do another phone-in show or fan show, whatever, so we can get people on to come and talk to us and give us their opinion verbally. We'll look at doing that over the next few week probably, if so many stages. If it goes, then when we can do it later on, because we'll be busy with the Managerial podcast if it does go. But Danny, what's your thoughts? It's a horrible question to ask. If in ideal, we'd never have this conversation about our own football club. We never want our managers to get sacked. But it's you can see in the comments, it's a conversation we've got to have.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, I was very much on the fence with Evans coming in. But like we said today, we could have had great success, or it could have gone the way it's gone. But he talked a good game. He talked about promotion and winning the cup and taking the fans back to Wembley and playing exciting edge of the seat football. And to be fair, he's playing edge of the seat football, but it's edge of the seat for people wanting to leave. So it's not the best, is it? But I think we all said at the start of the season that we thought Evans would be manager come the end of the season, and unfortunately, I still believe that. But I think a lot of the fans will call for Evans to go in the post and pre-season. And the story will be told with amount of season tickets that get sold or renewed or whatever in the summer. Because we didn't meet the target for Evans to buy everyone a pint at Cutler's. And I think it'll just drop from there. It'll go for, because what's our season tickets at now? Is it just shy of
just shy of 7, wasn't it? Because we were going to buy every pint if we got to 7.
Yeah, so it's just shy of 7,000. I'd be surprised if we sell 5,000 in the summer with Evans still as manager. And I think that'll be the one thing that convinces Tony Stewart to get rid of him, will be the amount of ticket and season ticket sales that we will have in the summer. But from a purely footballing perspective, thinking about how much we have fallen off since coming down from the Championship, if it was any other club other than my own, I'd be saying I had to get rid of the manager. 100%. But unfortunately, knowing how Tony Stewart approaches it, Evans will still be manager end of the season, without a doubt. But for me, he needs to go. I'm nailing the cause to that. He needs to go. We need change. Even though we haven't got the transfer window for it or anything like that, we need the change just to inject something else into this team. I mean, yeah, it was a bit of a disaster under Liam Richardson, but we still got a bit of an injection when we appointed him. It just wasn't backed in January, and funnily enough, Evans hasn't been backed in January. Or we would have more players. We would have had the ability to just bring in more players and to be more tempting to other players. Like, yeah, we'll pay you a bit more money, but come and fight in the division for us. Yeah, sure, we'll sign for you. Didn't have that ability. And speaking of players not wanting to play for Evans, have you seen Lee Peltier's recent podcast that he went on? Talking about the one.
I saw the penalty thing he talked about.
Not that one. The one where he talks about Steve Evans.
No.
You've not seen it? I can't remember the name.
What podcast is it? Oh.
I can't remember the name of it for my life of me. I'm really sorry. It might be Under the Cosh. I'm not sure. But he talked about, they sort of said to him, what sort of manager do you not want to play for? And it was a game he played against Steve Evans, and how he just barks orders from the touchline. And he said, if he were doing that to me, I'd just tell him to, F off and all this, that, and all. I don't want to play for that sort of manager. And funnily enough, Lee Peltier is not here, isn't he? Funny that. Like Paul Rosa said, it's priceless. You need to sit and watch it, because it sums up exactly what's happening with the players. They don't want to be barked at every single time they do something wrong or taken off the pitch every single time. It's not what this football club is about anymore, and that's why he needs to go, in my opinion.
Do we think? Oh, so we've given our opinion. Do we think he will quickly?
No,
I don't think so either. I don't think so either. But we'll see. We'll wait and see. There's rumours. Scott Kent put. I think also somebody else put in the comments that Warrington and Matt I'm sure were there. People said have seen them, so that's that's something. Palmer says to give us some optimism. There's only 7 more home games left.
Season's nearly done.
We're nearly there.
F1 starts in a few weeks.
You can buy Terry's chocolate oranges in B&M.
Yeah.
There you go. That's my positivity.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I feel like it's a really negative place to be at the minute on this podcast. So I apologise to everybody that joins us. But what can you do? We have to kind of follow the mood. Follow the mood on Twitter. We all got our own opinions, but they often tend to be pretty similar at your own football club. Everybody has slightly different ones, but most people tend to be on the similar path, especially when it gets to this point in a season. And Showstone's asking for a friend. What do we need to do to cancel the auto renew? No idea. To be honest with you.
Block the direct debit on your online banking.
Yeah. But that'll be coming up soon. Well, what is it? It's normally March, April time that the renewals window kind of comes open. So that'll be interesting to see what happens in the centenary year as well. Going to the centenary year next year as well. It's a shame.
That's another thing. Just before we finish, we'll have to talk about this on another podcast in more detail. But it's frightening how little has been talked about the centenary.
Well, why are you surprised? Because of the absolute show that's going off on the pitch. I don't think anybody wants that. Nobody is going to engage with this football club. That's not true. The vast majority of supporters are not going to engage with this football club at the moment because of what's happening. So, and it will only get worse while this continues until somebody in power at the club takes it by the testicles and runs with it. And I don't think that's going to happen.
Don't run with them.
You know what I mean?
Don't run with them. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah, don't run. No, let's not get. You know what I mean? Somebody's going to have to grab it by them and do something about it. And I don't think the only person that can do that is Tony Stewart, and he's not going to do it. So, but the time will come, as everybody's pointing out, very, very soon now, when Tony Stewart's got to start thinking about who's going to fund this club next season. That's us, Tony. That's us.
It's 3,000 less.
We're the ones that are going to provide a significant amount of funding for this football club next season. And if it continues the way it is, it ain't going to be there to the degree that it's been there for the last few years. So, see what happens.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And before we finish, it's the Football Historian podcast where you can watch the Lee Peltier bit about Steve Evans. There we go. Football Historian podcast. Go and check it out. And I agree with Paul that it's fantastic.
Yeah, go check it out. If anybody hasn't already joined the Discord group, we've had some nice whinging, moaning things on there. And there's been some Terry's Creebank things.
I need to get in that. I need to have a look at that.
Mick's going to have two pictures on his wall. It's going to be Joe Powell and Terry screaming.
Yeah. Make sure you have subscribed if you haven't done so already on YouTube. Give it a thumbs up as well. That always helps YouTube. Let it know that you've enjoyed the show. So if you haven't done so already, click the whether you're watching on telly, watching on your tablet or phone, whatever. Give it a good old thumbs up. We will be back on. Well, we're scheduled to be back on Thursday. That will be a preview, apologies, of the Bristol Rovers game. I think it'll be Thursday. I've not heard a single rumour that there's any movement. And I think if there was movement, when we knew Matt Taylor was sacked 2 days before we were actually sacked, didn't we? Although having said that, we knew Liam Richardson was sacked literally when the statement was put out. So we'll see what happens on that one. But I've not heard any whispers, and I feel like would have heard something by now. So I don't think we'll see anything happen. But we'll wait and see. If you are listening on iTunes or Spotify, make sure you've given a 5-star rating where it allows you to do so. Subscribe, follow, again, like whatever it allows you to do so. And go over and check us out on Facebook if you are on Facebook, which most people are, I suppose. Anything else quickly? Because we're already 20 minutes. It's a bloody long episode.
Too long.
Some might say. Some might say not long enough.
No, we wouldn't.
Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Mick. Thank you, Danny. Wi-Fi held up for Danny. That was very, very good. So thank you very much. Yay. Thank you to Tom, I suppose, for that one. We will see everybody next time. And as always, Up the Millers.
Yeah, up the Millers, yeah.
I think I always made the comment that once a Miller, always a Miller.
Ravel, ambitious, but brilliant! I don't believe it! I swear I do not believe it! Good heavens, he's done it again! Another promotion for the big man.
I've got 12 bottles of champagne in my office and we're going to drink them all night.
Do me a favor, drop me off in